Excellent. How is everybody doing today? I know it's a Sunday afternoon, so you guys might be feeling a bit lazy. Yeah, good. Thank you, Gurvinderji.
Good
It's 4 days.
afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I am trying to go to speaker mode. Just a minute. All right. So I can see your pretty faces. Thank you for coming on camera. For those of you who are not on camera, I would love to see your faces, at least on the first day. As the days will go on, there is a high tendency for less and less people to show off and cameras to go off. So at least on the first day, let's say hello in person. Um, this will be the digital transformation for training and development paper, which would mean that we will talk a lot. It is not a fixed kind of an agenda. There is a syllabus, of course, and we will follow the syllabus. And we will also interact a lot. The reason being, this is very VUCA content, which means that it keeps changing. It's changing even at the moment we are talking right now. So one of the things that I would encourage is a lot of dialogue, lot of questions. In case you have an experience to share, an example to share, I would be very, very grateful if you do that because it becomes a learning for everybody else. I'm assuming, and maybe I will stop and allow some of you who are willing to introduce yourselves. But one of the things that I have realized over the number of years that I've taken this class is there are people from varied backgrounds. Some who understand some examples, some who do not because they don't relate to that industry. So when you share an example or a feedback or an experience, everybody gets to learn from it. So that is why and also my experience is limited. I will be able to give you examples from the work that I've done over the last 24 years. I've been working for last 24 years. But even then, I don't have experience from all kinds of industries. Like last year, we had a couple of people from the medical industry, which was really refreshing because most of the times we do not get examples from that industry. And that also opened our eyes to many learning and development approaches which are not relevant for the life-saving industries. So having said that, I won't drag on. So I think I made my point. Please talk, please share, please ask a lot of questions. The model we want to follow is I'm making a very big assumption that all of you have already received the syllabus, all of you already have the book. So is it a yes, no? Okay. Most of the people are nodding, they don't have it.
We haven't received it yet.
Okay, okay. So if you haven't, you will. From what I know, it will take some time for all of you to receive the books. Once you receive it, you will also, but you have the syllabus, right? At least you have the syllabus, or you don't have the syllabus as well.
No, we don't know.
Okay,
We just
okay.
have it
We
online,
don't have it.
like on the website.
It's there. It's available on the ISTD syllabus portal. Yes.
Okay. So if you have seen it from the portal, you would know that there are 6 modules. Okay. We will follow the 6 modules, and this course will be covered in 10 classes. Every Sunday, you will be meeting me in the second half. How we want to do this is we want to cover every module and give it the time that it deserves. That might mean that we have to break one module into 2 pieces, which means that we do the first session, next session we do a recap of the previous session, and then we carry on for the rest of the whole module. When I say module, it means a chapter in your book. So one chapter being covered by 2 sessions. The second thing I want to talk about is the content that I show on the screen. The presentations are not necessarily, all the content is not necessarily in your book. Some of it is online research, some of it is examples that I have put in, some of it is there. So what I will do for your convenience is I will call out the portions that are not there in your book. What I'm trying to attempt here is not make it a visual representation of just what you will receive as a written text. वो तो आप खुद भी घर में पढ़ सकते हो. There's no need for me to sit and parrot it for all of you. But what we want to do is in the classroom is give you a highly compressed version of the text so that it allows all kinds of learners, be it visual learners, audible learners, and kinesthetic learners to be able to relate in some way or the other to the class. All of us, I'm again assuming, many of us, if not all of us, are working professionals. हमारे पास हमेशा time नहीं होता to go and read the book. So the attempt is, if you listen to the class, if you at least look at the PowerPoint that I will share you after the class, you will have some sense about what this subject is, and it will not be a Herculean task for you to go through pages and pages of material to be able to clear the exam. Okay, so I'm trying to make it extremely convenient for all of you. Having said that, I will encourage you asking questions and clarifying doubts as the class goes along. Sometimes what happens is people come with questions on module 1 at the end of module 5. Well, it can be answered, not a problem. But what happens is the flow goes away. And if you have not attended after module 1 or 2, and then you straight away come for module 5, what will happen is that continuity will get broken. From what I remember, this book was written as a flow over from one module into another, then the other module into another, which means that whatever you will learn in chapter 1 will definitely help in chapter 3. So if you haven't done chapter 1, you haven't caught up, you might face a bit of a challenge in catching up in chapter 3. So the long and short of the story is try and, if not attend, at least listen to the recordings beforehand, so that if you have missed a class, which is very normal, it happens to the best of us, you are able to catch up on the next session and you are not like in a daze or completely lost. I will do my best to keep recapping every time we begin a session, recollecting whatever concepts we are talking about. But you will also have to put in a little bit of effort. Okay. I will give you some home assignments. I will give you some home play. You can do it. You can choose not to do it. Those are not mandatory. Okay. They're just for your understanding in the real world as to how this subject works and what are the few things you need to keep in mind. There are some exercises also in the book which you can do, self-learning exercises, which you can do. I haven't received a copy of the material this year as yet. I'm yet to receive it, just like you haven't received it. Initially, I'd written this book, but there have been made some changes in chapter number 2, so I haven't received the revised text. Once I receive it, then I can talk a little more about what you will experience in the book. Okay? So all of you and I are in the same boat. I don't have the material yet. So once I receive it, I can talk more about it. I don't want to bore you guys with the syllabus, all of it. But what I do want to talk about today is module number 1. So before I jump into module number 1, I don't know how many of you know me. So there are most of the people who are showing their cameras are on board and they have either switched off or run away. But that's a separate case. I would encourage all of you to switch on your cameras. Like I said, after this, I might not be able to see your faces ever again because you guys will definitely be on off camera, on mute. But on the first session, how many people know me already? Have you read about me? Are you meeting me for the first time? Are you hearing my name for the first time? Anybody
I'm
knows
hearing
me?
it for the first time.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else know about me, or else I will spend 1 minute in introducing myself? Okay, so I'm assuming most of you do not know me. So my name is Tina Chakrabarti. I've been working for the last 24 years in the corporate sector. I am an engineer by education, but by passion, I'm a human resources person. So I began with an engineering career. I began with software development, etc., but eventually found my calling and moved into human resources. I worked in companies like IBM. I worked in Genpact, Deloitte, Accenture, Facebook, Google. I worked in very remarkable and amazing companies. My learning has been across industries. I have not stayed in a specific IT or BPO or other kind of an industry, financial services industry. So my number of industries that I would be BPO, primarily IT, financial services, media, consulting, and retail. These are the industries where I have worked. I am a happiness coach. I'm also a life coach, which makes my conversation slightly philosophical at times. I can get a bit of preachy. If I become too preachy, please point it out that she's preaching too much. But that's nature of habit. I'm right now not in India. I will be back in India in September. So it's my morning right now, and you guys will be. So I am full of energy. You guys are after lunch, so feel free to doze off at times. To switch off your camera and doze off. I hope I am not putting you to sleep. But if you are following the screen, I can assure you that you will not be falling asleep. So that's a little bit about me. You can read more about me on LinkedIn. You can type in my name. You will immediately find me. I am active on LinkedIn because I do a lot of hiring on LinkedIn. I write a lot on LinkedIn, and maybe you will find some of the posts helpful. So that's a little bit about me. Show of hands, how many of you are freshers? As in, just started your job. Okay. Smita, welcome. Anyone else who's, you can, if you're not on camera, you can also raise your little hand. Okay. So only one fresher. So Smita, you are special. You have special status.
No, it's not about pressure, but I just come from a very different line of teaching.
Okay.
Wherein all are into training and development. I've been training the children till now. That's the only thing.
Okay. Okay. But you can give some very useful examples because sometimes when you look at the lens of a different age group, you get to learn a lot of things which we take for granted when we go for adults.
I
So
wish I
thank you
can.
for making the choice. Thank you for making the choice. Um, if I go around the classroom, doing introductions, it might take too much time. So just want to say, no offense, I welcome all of you to the class. I hope we keep it interesting, we keep it engaging. That will be my effort. I am going to do a bit of a boring stuff now. I'm going to begin by presenting the deck on the screen, but I will always be on camera, so you can stop me and ask me any questions. We want to jump into module 1. As I promised, the modules which are longer, we will break them into 2 segments. The modules which are shorter, easier on the ears and easy to understand, we will cover them in one go. Most of the modules in this learning exercise has been broken into 2 segments. I mentioned this once, I'm repeating myself. There are some additional reading materials that I will give you. They will help you to relate the concepts in real life, in your jobs. If you do them, great. If you don't do them, good enough, no problem. Like I said, they do not take away any score. They do not run any risks of your credits or your exam impact. It just helps in recollecting the concepts into the real world. Okay. Having said that, I'm going to share my screen now, and we are jumping into module number 1. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So that's module number 1, session number 1, digital transformation of training and development. This deck I have developed, so you will receive the PDF copies of this deck. So if you raise your hand, I won't be able to see you because I've removed the gallery from my screen. So please speak up if you have a question, ongoing question. I'm going to move this away and go back to my share screen. Yeah. Here I go. Okay. So now we are talking about digital transformation. Every module that we will do, the first section will tell you the topics we will cover. Every session will be for 1.5 hours, which means that half an hour of that can be introductions, conversations, general conversations about how you've been, because we are not meeting in person, so it becomes difficult to establish a personal connect. But 1 hour we will do solid study. So the 1 hour begins now. Topics cover: what is digital transformation, digitization, digitalization, digital transformation, difference between the three, need of digital transformation. When I say T&D, it mainly means training and development, which is affectionately also called in the industry learning and development. Then we talk about learning, digital transformation, and innovation. We will talk about the 6 pillars. We'll talk about the framework. We'll talk about strategy for implementation. We'll also talk about the journey. All of these 4 elements will further be built in detail over the next few chapters. So it might look a lot, but then these are just tasters. Like you go to the ice cream shop and everybody gives you a taster. एक चम्मच देते हैं आपको, थोड़ा टेस्ट कराते हैं कि ये फ्लेवर है. And this is what we are going to do today. Then we are also going to talk about the digital transformation roles. If you have to do a digital transformation of learning and development or training and development in your organization, what are the certain roles? Roles matlab job descriptions bol sakte hain, team roles bol sakte hain. What are the few roles that are absolutely necessary for that to be successful? And why should organizations care about digital transformation? Okay, these are the topics we're going to cover today. Having said that, let's walk into what digital transformation is. So when we say what is digital transformation, this is in your book. Digital transformation is the integration of digital technology in all areas of our lives. Okay? यहाँ पे खत्म कर सकते थे, but what is the benefit? Sometimes it also helps to put in the benefit also in the definition. So we are saying fundamentally changing the way we operate and live our lives. The thing that I said in the beginning of the class is this is a VUCA subject, which is highly volatile. It is changing all the time. So the journey of digital transformation is continuous and constantly evolving with new technologies and enhancements every day. So because it is enhancing and advancing every day, no course material can be foolproof. So if you look at the course material, you might see already in the past 3 years, some of the things have changed. Some of the things have already improved, or some of the things have been eliminated from the equation. For example, we no longer use typewriters. Doesn't mean that it still doesn't do the job, but then everybody's moved away from analog technology to digital technology. Similarly, there are other things that you will see that have been brought back and digitalized from the past of the learning industry or any other industry. Because they were relevant in the shape and form they were, digitization will help them. So we will use these three words, digitization, digitalization, and digital transformation very closely. We'll talk about definitions, what they mean. But for the moment, I want to just marinate on the digital transformation conversation for a minute. So I'm going to stop the share for a minute and ask all of you, does this definition of digital transformation make sense for all of you? When you came to this class, was this the definition you were looking for, or was there something else in your head when you were thinking about digital transformation? Any responses, reactions?
Hi, Tina. This is Shivli here from Mumbai. So yes, this is somewhere the definition that I'm looking for, but also one of my expectations would be like from this, you can say the subject or the whole session, however it's progressing, as to how we can, because companies even now, at least in India, many people still don't want to be digitally they don't want their data to be
Yes,
digital. They like
yes.
being on their old. So
Yeah.
how can we encourage them and show the benefits and actually use it for better work, basically, and better picturization or digitization, as you said?
Hmm. Thank you. So, surely one of the things that we will focus on in every session, whenever we talk about a concept, we are going to talk about strategy and implementation challenges and risk.
Right.
Because this is one of the things that we all experience in all our walks of life. Because like I said, I can at least proudly say that I've worked in organizations like Accenture, Google, and Facebook. I've also worked in very basic mom and pop companies, very traditional industries like Hindi newspapers, etc., where they have this whole dread about digital transformation and they largely resist it. They think that something unspeakable will happen if we embrace it. They, to some extent, can also be very, very right about the concerns they have. But how do we elevate it? How do we work around it? And what solutions we offer? Is it one size fit all? No, it doesn't fit all. Doesn't fit all. So
Right.
that means that we will also have to change the sizes and the glove and everything else, because otherwise what happens is people end up not only resisting it, it also gets rejected. And then
Yes.
suddenly, and I don't want to scare everybody, suddenly you find your job in question. Because nowadays, that's what happens. AI को दे देंगे या फिर और बंदे को निकाल देंगे. AI से करा लेंगे. बंदा नहीं काम कर पा रहा, AI से करा लेंगे. It's a dread we all live in. Nobody talks about it. Some people talk about it. People discourage them. नहीं नहीं डराओ मत लोगों को. But the truth is, it will happen eventually over a period of time. Technology will take over. So what is the smart thing to do? To resist it or to embrace it and make it work for you? Which one?
The second option is all.
Embrace it,
Yes.
embrace
Exactly.
it, and make it
And
work for
Embrace it.
you.
Work with it.
yes.
Make
And
it your
just to add
minion.
on,
Yeah, make it your own minion instead of you being the minion of AI, right? Most of
right.
us who are
And if,
scrolling endlessly are
Mm,
minions. पूरा पूरा दिन बैठे रहते हो.
right.
पूरा पूरा दिन कुछ कुछ देखते रहते हो. Most of the content has not even been created by human being. Most of the blogs, most of the technical stuff, most of the stuff is nowadays created by advanced robots. I have a friend who writes
Yes.
blogs for 810 websites. मैंने कहा कैसे लिख लेते हो? हाँ, मैं तो एक ब्लॉग लिखने में 3 दिन लग जाते हैं. थॉट प्रोसेस डालो, टाइमलाइन डालो, क्या लिखना है, इंग्लिश को रीस्ट्रक्चर. अरे मैम, आप ओल्ड स्कूल हो. आप वो लिखते हो, हम तो उससे कर चैट जीपीटी से कर देते हैं उसको यार, उसमें से निकाल के किसी और में डाल देते हैं। कुछ ही टूल में told me about some 6 7 different softwares which take care of plagiarism, it takes care of everything else, and the outcome is quite nice, and she does it for 810 websites. That's her
Okay.
job. So the most of the content that you're reading is not even written by your page. So
Mhm.
how do you make sure that you become the master of how the technology impacts your life instead of you being in the effect of how technology impacts you? So that is going to be the journey with this subject. Okay, so now
Right.
let's understand, and thanks for your question, Julie. Let us now understand what do we really mean by these three words: digitization, digitalization, and digital transformation. This will give you a large sense of comfort in having a genuine conversation about what digital transformation, digitalization, and digital transformation really means. Okay. So here you see the small pyramid that we've made. Okay. We are going to talk about what digitization means. Digitization primarily means transition from analog to digital. Very simple. For example, you have a material, you have some pieces of paper, etc., which now needs to be converted into soft copies. That is the basic process of digitization. Digitization कर देने से आप implement नहीं कर देते हो कोई software, etc. That's a larger journey. So the first step is digitization, where you go ahead and convert anything and everything that exists, existing knowledge, into digital form. Then when we talk about digitalization, less people talk about it actually because it is sandwiched between digital transformation and digitization. It's that lost step that nobody talks about. But actually there is a name to it. When you improve business processes or whatever industry you are in by leveraging digital technologies, it's called digitalization. For example, पहले आप गूगल फॉर्म से फॉर्म इंफॉर्मेशन नहीं कलेक्ट करते थे, अब आप करने लगे हो, दैट इज कॉल्ड डिजिटलाइजेशन. पहले आप मैक्रोज नहीं रन करते थे, अब आप मैक्रोज रन करके इंफॉर्मेशन इकट्ठा कर रहे हो, that is digitalization. Small improvement in business processes which makes life simpler and easier for people is what digitalization is. A combination of digitization and digitalization done in a very sustainable, effective manner leads to digital transformation. Now, some of you might ask, is it only digitalization and digitization that can lead to the transformation? No, it's a part of it. Digital transformation also involves softwares that allows people to see digitalization in action in a more seamless, constructive, effective manner. Okay? So when we talk about digital transformation, we are basically leveraging emerging technologies to build business systems. In case you are a human resource person, it can be the CRM. In case you are a person who runs on shares, trades, and stocks, it can be the business model. It can be consumer and employee experience as well. So it touches everybody's life. People who are working in the company, people who are receiving services, vendors who work with you, it touches everybody's life. And that is when we truly call it a digital transformation. See, digitization and digitalization may not touch everybody's lives. It can change processes, it can make some conveniences and some low hanging fruits to be delivered. But digital transformation touches everybody's lives. So basically, how you appear as a business entity, how you appear as an institution in case you are an educational institution, how you appear as a hospital, how you appear as a factory, everything gets changed, transformed when you embrace softwares that will allow you to truly have a digital transformation journey. So what is the takeaway? The takeaway is digitalization is the middle step between digitization and digital transformation. And also, if you see here, the world rotates around revenue streams. So it contributes towards the creation of digital revenue streams. And the takeaway from this slide, I try to do takeaways on every slide. Remember this and you will never forget it. It's easy for your exams. It's easy also for your day to day. And somebody is having a conversation. And you can sound intelligent when you're having that conversation. Digitization makes data digital. Digitalization leads to digital business. digital transformation requires digitization and digitalization. Okay. So now let's take an example. If you see here, the first step is what? Anybody?
Digitization.
Digitization. The second step is what?
Digitalization.
Digitalization, because what we did is those analog that is now converted into digital, we are basically using various tools and techniques for us to experience the joy of digitization in the real sense, which is basically digitalization. And the final step is digital transformation. This is a visual which will help you remember so that you don't get confused between the terms. And in digital transformation, the key takeaway is a lot of revenue. If you see all of those dollars, etc., showing up, because now it started to give you benefits, not just joy of implementation, not just ease of convenience. Remember, ease of convenience is also revenue saved. Earlier, you were filling out a form, you were spending 7 minutes in filling out a form. Now you're using a Google form to fill up, you still save 2 minutes. That's also a time saving, which can be converted into revenue. But the real revenue comes when you start earning more, not from only time and cost saving efforts. So that is what digital transformation can give you. Now, let's give you an example so that you don't forget. In digitization, what is the focus? The focus is data conversion. In digitalization, it's primarily information processing. It is a step advanced from just data conversion. In digital transformation, we are talking about knowledge leveraging. So that data that you just went ahead and converted and processed it using the software, now you're going to leverage this data. It can be knowledge, it can be information, it can be numbers, it can be reports, it can be biometrics, it can be anything. Now what allows the focus for digital transformation is leveraging that knowledge in any shape and form possible and not keeping it siloed. For example, most of you will agree, if you worked in corporates long enough, that there are information and a lot of insights that is already available, but God knows kahan pe hai. It's some department, it's some SME somewhere sitting, basically it's untapped in. So unfortunately, many of the departments go ahead and they also start creating, what should I say, the replicating the work, reinventing the wheel, as we like to say in corporate language. और बाद में पता चलता है ये काम तो पहले ही कर रखा है हम लोगों ने. And this has been a waste of time. What digital transformation allows you to do is, if you have a central repository, आजकल कोई भी काम हम scratch से नहीं शुरू करते. We straight away go and first we do Google. देखते हैं information क्या available है, what is available, with whom is it available. If you are able to create an internal portal for those who are fortunate enough to work in very big, large-sized companies, everybody has a company portal. And the company portal, just internal portal में आप जाके चीजें ढूंढ सकते हैं. There are people, there are departments you can reach out to, so that you can leverage the knowledge that is sitting in those departments instead of recreating all of this all from scratch. So that is a great example of digital transformation benefits that comes to it. Can it come through digitalization? Partially. आपने एक टूल इंप्लीमेंट किया जिसमें सारे डिपार्टमेंट्स एक साथ चैट कर सकते हैं, डेटा शेयर कर सकते हैं, शेयर ड्राइव पे डेटा डालते हैं, बट बिकॉज यू हैवंट पुट इन अ प्रोसेस इन प्लेस, इट इज नॉट नेसेसरी पीपल आर गोइंग टू फॉलो इट. Digital transformation touches your life in such a way that you have to follow certain steps. You have to be compliant in various ways that ensures that it doesn't rest on your whims and fancies कि हम करेंगे नहीं करेंगे. It becomes a part and process of your daily routine. That is how digital transformation allows people to leverage knowledge of all kinds. Okay, now let's go to the next one. What is the goal of digitization? Changing analog to digital, very simple. Digitalization, again, automating existing. I'm using training operations because it's a training and development class. You can use any kinds of operations and processes here. And digital transformation would mean changing the company's culture, the way it works and thinks. So do you see? This is a real, tangible. You can touch it, you can feel it, that kind of a benefit that you get from digital transformation. Again, what are the activities? Low-level transactions की बात करते हैं. What are the activities? To convert paper documents, photos, microfilms, L3s, films, VHS tapes, You will not, some of you might be who are from the millennial generation might not even know what is a VHS is, might not even know what a microfilm is. We, the dinosaurs, still know that there used to be things like those when we were in our universities, when we just began our jobs. There used to be transparencies बोलते थे हम लोग कॉलेज में, हम उसको अपना प्रोजेक्ट्स बना के प्रोजेक्टर पे लगा लगा के लोगों को दिखाते थे. It can be alien, it might sound alien to many of you because you haven't experienced that. But converting all that information and knowledge into a digital format is also one of the jobs of digitization. And you might underwrite it, but then let me tell you, converting very old texts. So I'm a person who loves to read books. Um, I read a lot about consciousness, this and that. There are some great books that are available that are only available in hard copies. And let me tell you how challenging it is to be able to convert millions and millions of pages of content into digital content. It might sound very simple. There are companies who specialize in it, but it can be a challenge. But then to be able to effectively do it, इसलिए Google में आपको कुछ images दिखेंगे बड़ी गंदी सी टेढ़ी मेढ़ी images, because that is what could have been preserved from old texts. So that is also a humongous activity for digitization. Then digitalization would be creation of digital training standard operating processes. This is something all of you will be able to resonate to. SOPs. अब आपने कन्वर्ट तो कर लिया डॉक्यूमेंट, अब क्या करोगे? बुला के बंदे को बोल दो ये लो पढ़ो these document. There has to be a standard operating process as to how you go through your training processes. How do you give the material? How do you release the material? How can somebody read chapter 3? You will have to complete chapter 1 and 2, and then you can only access chapter 3. So all of that standard operating processes is an example of digitalization. It's a process implementation. It is not really a physical implementation of a digital software. It is a process implementation. Kaise hoga? That's why we call it the standard operating process, SOPs. Those of you who have worked in financial industry, those of you who worked in compliances, legal, they will know SOPs, what SOPs mean. It basically means aise hi kaam karna hai. It's kind of a code of conduct of how you do your training. And then the last one is creation of new digital training systems, a transformation to a digital one. How many of you have LMS in your companies? Yes, no, maybe?
Yes, we do have that. Yes.
Yeah. So LMS
Yes.
is an example of digital transformation. कि आप कैसे लोगों को ट्रेनिंग कोर्सेज ऑफर कर रहे हो, कैसे उनके स्कोर्स ट्रैक कर रहे हो, कैसे उनको रिपोर्ट्स दे रहे हो, कैसे अपने सीनियर्स को रिपोर्ट आउट भेज रहे हो, कैसे उनका प्रोग्रेस ट्रैक कर रहे हो, किसको निकाल रहे हो प्रोग्राम से, ये नहीं करता, ये एलिजिबल नहीं है. All of that actually is a gift of digital transformation. We consider that to be a given nowadays, but the truth is that that is what digital transformation truly means in the real sense of action. Now, let's look at the tools. It's easy. Computers, conversion encoding equipment for digitization, IT systems and computer applications for digitalization, and for digital transformation, matrix of digital technologies. I've put currently disruptive because I keep repeating myself that technology is changing very frequently. So we are saying it's a matrix of new digital technologies. And every new tool comes with some amazing feature that you couldn't have thought before. So that is what the level of advancement that we are getting. Then what is the challenge? Challenge for digitization is volume. Material. Itna material hai, itna material hai, itna material hai. To be able to effectively, efficiently convert it is a challenge. Okay. Price, financial limitations is a challenge for digitalization. And most of you would be nodding your heads because that is where we get shot down. सारी benefits pitch करते करते जब आप इस slide पे आते हो challenge वाले पे सबसे लोग पहले price देख के बोल देते यार ये नहीं कर सकते कुछ और सोचो. So either you start developing your software in-house or you try to find cheaper vendors who will be able to do the digitalization for you. And then the last one, which Julie spoke about, resistance to change and digital transformation के challenge देखो सबसे दुख की बात है human resources. Because most of the people would say that, okay, what happens if this gets implemented? This many people lose jobs or they get de-skilled. A nicer, sophisticated way of saying it is you are getting de-skilled. तुम्हारे skill की अब कोई value नहीं रही. So we will talk about this. How do we make sure as human professionals, and now because the robotics have actually become a part of a population, मुझे अजीब लगता है कि actually they have become so significant that we have to actually consider them as a part of society. So you being humans, how do we make sure that we upskill, reskill, our people to make sure they're still relevant as a part of the future of the workforce. We'll talk about it. Okay, I think that chapter is still there. So we'll talk about how to make sure that we keep people relevant in the current scheme of things. And what are the few things we can do to work around this resistance to change? For example, showing benefits that people will get. For example, showing how much time saving it will have, how many malware errors will be reduced, and how easy and flexible it will be. Resistance of change is the biggest challenge against which, that's the uphill journey against which you will be working or operating. But like every journey has its own pros and cons, you will have your own. But taking people through the journey with examples and real life solutions is what can only break the resistance down. If you just go and provide lip service, people do not tend to believe it. बोलेंगे, तुम तो अब implementation के लिए कुछ भी बोलो. So as learning and development professionals, we are enablers. We are not the one man or one woman army whose job is to get this transformation done. You will have other partners in the company, like human resources, like IT, like other people who will also contribute and be a yay or a naysayer in the decisions of digital transformation. So we'll talk in detail more about it later. The last one is the example that I've already given you visually, scanning paper-based trainings into registration forms. Digitalization example can be electronic registration process, and transformation can be everything electronic, from registration to content delivery or training. Okay? So it's been me talking in a monologue for a long time. Maybe before we jump into 6 pillars, let me take a status check. How are you guys doing? Is it okay? Is the speed okay? Am I talking too fast? Am I confusing everybody?
No,
Is the
ma'am.
speed all right?
Overlapping of words, so yeah, speed is good. Looks like good to
Yeah,
me.
speed is okay.
Speed is okay. And I haven't heard a question yet other than the question Shivli raised. Please feel free to stop me and ask a question, like I said, because when I'm on full screen, I cannot always look at your texts, etc. in case you have shared anything in the chat. Okay, I see there are a couple of people who have written something in the chat. Let's see. Yeah, so no, there aren't too many comments in the chat, but please feel free to stop me and ask the question. So now we are going into the core of digital transformation. We'll talk about the 6 transformational pillars. So I'm going back to sharing my document. Share. Okay. So now we are talking about the 6 pillars. If you see the graphic, I'm going to take you guys through all the 6 of them, but I'm going to stay quiet for a minute for all of you to absorb this. If you see, the 6 pillars are going to be clockwise, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Each one of them have a name on the outer circle, and in the middle circle, you get to see what the content is about those 6 pillars. I'm going to stay quiet for a minute, let all of you absorb this, and then I'm going to talk about each pillar one by one and open up the bullets on the right-hand side. All right, that should do it. So we are talking about 6 pillars of digital transformation. The first one goes without any doubt, a refutation as experience. Consumer experience, employee experience, journeys, behaviors, expectations. So for a transformation journey, क्या transform कर रहे हैं? पता तो होना चाहिए ना क्या transform कर रहे हैं. There has to be a purpose statement. There has to be a challenge statement. While Steve Jobs might disagree with me sometimes, and he mentions that people don't need what they know, but then even then, for you to decide what will really cater to the benefits of people, you need to know what their current experience is. तो कैसे निकालेंगे वो information? There are various ways of doing so. You guys do surveys, you can do multiple conversations, coffee table conversations. So your customer and employee experiences can be gathered and must be gathered before you go on to a digital transformation journey. That's the first factor you need to keep in mind. Without experiences, outcomes will not be convincing. मांगा नहीं था, पता नहीं क्यों लेकर आए, क्या फायदा हो रहा है इससे? That is where you run into conflict. Okay. So then it comes to people. Now, when you say customer and experience, employee experience, it is somebody who is working and somebody who is receiving the service. Now, in general, people, when we talk about the lives of people that our change is going to implement and impact, that is also key for people to not resist the change. So let us say there is this accounts payable department, जिसमें हम ये change कर रहे हैं, and the vendors are very, very happy कि हमने change कर दिया. But you as a department or you as a group of people do not only work in silo. तुमने जो changes implement किए, that will impact other people in your lives. It can implement the team that is sitting beside you, which is the cash applications team, the deductions team, the master data team. It will impact the IT team. Everything will get impacted. So people, their experiences are also extremely important. So not only the journey, the behavior, the expectations, the experiences are extremely key. So how do you gather the experience? You encourage people to share about what will really, really benefit them instead of saying, ये वाली company ये technology use कर रही है, हम भी करने वाले हैं. Ask people what they truly require. And this is where I go back to my point that I spoke about. It is not about one size fits all. Google कर रहा है, हम भी करेंगे. ठीक है, या कोई और कर रहा है, Accenture कर रहा है, हम भी करेंगे. हमारा competitor कर रहा है, हम भी करेंगे. It is not necessary. आपका competitor का size 400 है, आप 120 people हो. It will not work for you. Budget wise, it will not work you experience wise, and maybe it's not even required. Maybe it's not even required. आप LIG में रहते हो, आपने घर के बाहर fountain लगा लिया. Is it required at this point in time? Because बाकी लोग fountain लगा रहे हैं. You have to know what is your USP, what is it that your business requires at that point in time. And you as a learning professional will require to wear that hat of a business leader also to understand. अगर मैं कोई solution लाऊंगा या लाऊंगी, लोग उसको accept क्यों करेंगे? So what are the expectations? What behaviors do we already have in our company? And what kind of experiences people are looking for? Experience, expectation, behaviors. Okay. Now, where does behavior come into the play? आप सोच रहे होंगे behavior का मतलब क्या है? Behavior का मतलब ये है, let us say there is a company where everybody is very and it's a very silly example. Okay. If you have any different example, please tell me. I love to use silly examples because people are able to immediately relate to it. So let us say we work in an organization where there are generally old generation, traditional people. वो अपने आके सीट पे बैठते हैं, they expect that tea will be served to them. उनके डेस्क पे चाय आएगी, ऑफिस बॉय होगा, चाय आएगी, स्नैक्स आएंगे, प्लेट कोई उठा के लेके जाएगा, प्रिंट आउट कोई देके जाएगा, प्रिंट आउट कोई लेके आएगा. All of these expectations are there. It's behavior, it's culture as to how the company is nurtured. There's nothing right or wrong about it. It's just that that's how the culture of the company is. As compared to that, let's go to an Accenture or a Deloitte or other companies where people are perfectly comfortable walking up, getting their own coffee, putting their own plate down, getting their own printouts, sorting their own papers, stapling stuff because there's very little paperwork involved. People are completely cool about it. They don't have a problem. Now, if you come and implement a system of automation in a company where you have traditional people, how much resistance do you think you will face? Will the behavior supplement the change or will it actually sabotage the change? ये क्या नया बकवास है? ये मुझे क्यों करना पड़ेगा? There is a huge chance of resistance, even though there are going to be benefits financially, there are going to be benefits physically, there's going to be 1 million benefits. But because the behavior doesn't align with the changes that you're bringing in, the resistance will be higher. Does it mean that you don't bring in the change? No, you still bring in the change, but what are the pre-steps? Primer क्या लगाना पड़ेगा? जिन्होंने furniture का काम करा है उनको पता होगा. There is something called a primer that you put on the wood before you put in the paint and other things. What is the primer that you have to put before you implement the changes? And how much primer you require to put? Because it's a traditional organization, you will need to put in a larger amount of primer. Activities, communication, conversations will have to be happening to a larger extent as compared to an organization जिनको सब already आदत है चीजें automation की, उनके लिए just one more automation. So that is why pillar number 1 and pillar number 2 feed into pillar number 3. They feed into pillar number 3. And what is pillar number 3? Pillar number 3 is change. If you do not put the experiences of people, expectations of people, behaviors of people, consider them and also consider them above the technology. Do not begin with the end in mind. Yahan pe I will actually say that do not listen to Franklin Covey. Those people who have done Franklin Covey's 6 most effective habits of successful people, sixth habit is begin with the end in mind. Sorry. Sixth habit is sharpen your saw. One of the habits is begin with the end in mind. नहीं करना यहाँ पे because end in mind है SAP success factor लगा दूंगा. Success factor सब जगह नहीं चाहिए भाई. You can work with a smaller software, right? So do not begin with technology as your guiding answer कि सबको ना इस answer को navigate करके लेके जाना है. नहीं करना. Begin with an open mind. Listen to the experiences of people. Check their behaviors that they already have and listen to their expectations. उम्मीद क्या है आप? हाँ, हो सकता है उम्मीद से ज्यादा deliver करेंगे, but check it before you go and implement the change. That will also give you an idea change management में कितना time चाहिए होगा. 1 हफ्ता चाहिए होगा, 1 महीना चाहिए होगा, 1 साल चाहिए होगा. There are organizations who take 1 whole year to implement a change. And that is where you go and hire a vendor who does the change management for you. Large organizations do that. Google does it. Many other organizations do it because it's a drastic change. जैसे branding change होता है. Employee value proposition लोग change करते हैं company का. वो उसमें लगता है time because they spend an and half of a year interviewing people, understanding क्यों करते हैं इतना? Because it makes all the difference about make or break of the implementation that you're going to do, the transformation that you're going to introduce. Unfortunately, we are most of the time very small teams. Learning and development teams are not huge. So this job has to be done either by you. If you're lucky, you have a great budget, you can also involve a consultant or a part-time worker to be able to do these interviews. But the key point that I'm trying to drive here is pillar number 1 and 2, without doing them effectively, उसमें shortcut मारोगे, pillar number 3 will get messed up and then your 4 or 5 will fall flat. And your 6 will not experience any change. What is 6? The culture. एक चीज लाए थे कुछ तो कर दिया इन लोगों ने कुछ भी नहीं हुआ उससे. That is what your feedback will be. So moving on to pillar number 3. So what do you do in pillar number 3? In pillar number 3, you have to make sure that you start talking to people about the change and also make sure that you preach about change being inevitable, it being tough, and how you are going to support people through the change. So change आप लोगों पे गिरा नहीं देते गर्म पानी की तरह. You will have to tell people what the changes will entail and how you plan to support them through it. You will do trainings, you will do tutorials, you will do pilot implementation, you will share feedback, you will collect feedback throughout the process. You will be agile. You will jump back and forth to make changes to support people. ये नहीं काम कर रहा. That's okay. We will change it again. We'll go back to the drawing board. But you showing the willingness to help in the change management process will make sure that the change goes through smoothly. And then we talk about innovation. This is where we are talking about open communication, collaboration, and freedom to create. What does that mean? I spoke about change where we are willing to go back and forth. When you implement and you see the benefits, there are some things that people will come back and say, you know, this is too much for us to handle right now. We will require this to not be implemented in this phase. Can we do it in the next phase? Be open to that communication. Be open to collaboration. Sometimes people do tier 1 cities implementation first, tier 2 cities implementation later. They do geographical implementation. They do pilots across all. What is the right model for you to use might not come across when you are in the change phase. Everybody will say, ha, karte hain. Yes, 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 we can do it. Yes. But when you go ahead and implement it and you see in the innovation phase, when results start coming in and it really hits the people, that is when you will start getting all kinds of feedback. So what is critical at that point in time is you knowing whom to communicate, whom to collaborate with, etc., etc. Remember, it is not necessary that you have to follow all these pillars in a sequence. You do not. I am talking about them in a sequence to help you understand what the benefits are. But you cannot silo any of the pillar, neither do you have to follow it in a cyclical order. They are listed here in a cyclical order for you to understand what feeds into another, but doesn't mean that any of them are exclusive of each other. They're all inclusive, they all overlap. Somebody was talking about overlap. So experiences and people will always overlap. Leadership support ke bina aap ye to kuch kar hi nahi sakte. So if you see, look at the 6 pillars, they actually stand independently, but they're also highly overlapping with each other. The reason why I'm reading them in this certain order is just to let you know how one thing implements, it feeds into the other one. Okay. So in the innovation phase, when you're going and implementing things, that is when you will get a lot of feedback from leadership, which is pillar number 5. You will get a lot of feedback from number 1 and number 2 and number 5. And that will again feed into your number 3, your change management. So all of this is going to happen simultaneously. So your preparation of handling the digital transformation has to be independent of your business as usual tasks. आपको फिर भी ट्रेनिंग्स रन करने हैं, आपको फिर भी कंटेंट डेवलप करना है, आपको फिर भी ट्रेनिंग कैलेंडर फॉलो करना है, उसके साथ आप ये ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन कर रहे हो. सो यू हैव टू नो हाउ मच यू कैन टेक ऑन टू योर प्लेट. डू नॉट बाइट मोर देन व्हाट यू कैन च्यू. So be very clear as to digital transformation में कितने phase में करूंगा या करूंगी. What is going to be my implementation calendar. If you try to be too ambitious, your regular deliverables will fall and never begin the digital transformation journey without leadership support. Of course, budget to hai, budget ka support to hoga hi, but some of the champions you will have to identify who will talk in your favor, who will join the number 5 and number 6, कि कैसे हमारे कल्चर में चेंज आएगा and how it will cascade into your number 1 and your number 2, which is employees experience, customer end experience, and generally people across the organization. So that is where all these pillars will contribute to your creation of the digital transformation journey. So one of the things that we now acknowledge is without innovation, we cannot go ahead and transform anything, even the smallest thing. So we require innovation. And when you base innovation on the inputs of employees, inputs of customers, end customer, and also people in general, the ecosystem of the organization, your transformation will end up implementing your culture as well. It will now cascade to your culture. That whole example that I gave you about people expecting somebody to collect their printout, somebody to deliver the mail, somebody to serve coffee, somebody to pick up the clean up the office, all of that culture will start changing when you make sure that your change management is correct, your leaders are showing behavior as in मैं करता हूँ, मैं करके दिखाता हूँ how this changes. I remember in one of the organization I worked when they were taking away cabs, some of the leaders posted their own journey about traveling to office in the metro. They started, and very senior people, they shared their experience with pictures as to how it was, how much time it saved them, how easy it was, so that people would start getting inspired because there was a lot of upset around the cabs going away. And we said we will only give cabs from 8 p.m. to the morning 5 a.m. After 6 o'clock, Delhi Metro opens up. So we will be using metros. We were encouraging people to come. But then there was a lot of resistance. Then the senior people started saying, I am proactive, I'm going to do it. I'm going to post the story and I'm going to do it every day. And they did it every day for one whole month. For people to say, if such a senior person with so much of a workload can do it, we can do it as well. So leaders have to be proactive to support you. You have to find those champions, and then it becomes a part of the culture. Okay. So it seems like that I'm talking to a blank screen for a long time. Let's get some reactions, feedbacks. Any questions? Any doubts? Any clarifications? कुछ नहीं, खाली ऊपर से बाउंसर निकल गया सब.
नहीं.
Okay, the Bayan is
Okay,
giving
so
me a
far.
thumbs up. ठीक है. Got it. I need to keep checking ना, ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए. People are like, बस वो आवाज नहीं आ रही म्यूट में इसलिए खर्राटे चल रहे हैं. लंच के बाद बैठे हो वैसे भी संडे. Okay. I will now move to the
We are
next caller. Yes, Himanshu, you're saying something?
no, ma'am, we are not sleeping. We are in the session.
Thank you, thank you. ये बड़ा Zoom में ना ये
Actually,
ट्रेनिंग करने में बड़ा मुश्किल होता है.
no, actually, your session is very, very interesting. So, the kind of example, small little examples you're giving is actually taking us to make some, images in our mind and really bringing a smile on. Like you said, ऐसा नहीं कि चेंज ऐसा नहीं कि गर्म पानी किसी के ऊपर डाल दिया, something like that.
Never
It's
change.
really good.
Yeah, but
So
don't
yeah,
lagano.
you know.
Change also. But
Really
I don't know
interesting.
how
Thank you
many of
so
you
much. Yeah.
experienced it. You're welcome. But I have experienced change like that. I have. एक दिन सुबह फोन करके मुझे बोल
हाँ
दिया कि ये अब से ये हो रहा है हाँ ये अब से ये हो रहा है वो सब ना
हाँ
हमने कर दिया माइग्रेट कर दिया मैंने कहा किसी ने बताया नहीं एंड दिस वाज व्हेन आई वाज वे मोर जूनियर बस ये अब से हो रहा है यार वो हम लोगों ने ना बताना भूल गए ये लड़की ने लीव पे थी उसने वो कम्युनिकेशन की मेल्स निकालनी थी उसने मेल्स निकाले हमने वो चेंज कर दिया मैंने चेंज कर दिया व्हाट डू यू चेंज कर दिया यस देबाया
ये
गो अहेड
तो डॉटर इन लॉज के साथ होता है
Ma'am,
ना
I was actually
जनरली.
going through your experiences and the thoughts that we have already shared. So, I'm working in an organization. It's a non-banking, say like MFI organization. So here we actually implement different kind of changes in terms of OD part. Okay, so now and then the policy changes. Now and then the entire process of LND changes all and off and all. So this is the thing that you were sharing your point of views that I was actually correlating all these things that I am actually implementing here in my own zone. So I'm actually
ओके
maintaining the entire region here in North India. So we are instructed to implement different kind of strategies in terms of capacity building of the sales managers and executives. So this is what I was actually correlating to.
Okay, great. Thank you, Deban. And keep me real, okay? Keep me real in case you have an experience which you've heard from somebody else which is not covered here or is
Yeah,
completely different to what we are perceiving. Do let us know, okay? That will be super
sure,
helpful.
sure.
All right.
Thank
We have some
thank
more content to go through, and thank you for that, Mona ji. Let me quickly take you guys into the 7S framework. Some of you might have heard it. It's developed by McKinsey, and that is one of the most effective um, digital transformation frameworks that gives you a moral compass and also a learning and development compass as to what will work for you and what will not work for you. Okay, can everybody see the screen? Yeah. Okay, here you go. Okay, the framework, it's called 7S. It's developed by McKinsey. We'll talk about the various kinds of elements or the framework elements that determines how smooth your digital transformation journey can be. Hard elements and soft elements. What is the difference between hard elements and soft elements? Hard elements are the ones that are majorly influenced by the management of the company. And the soft elements are the ones which management चाह के भी कुछ नहीं कर सकते. They are basically what the company already is. It is the people, the staff, the values, the style. For example, you want an organization to suddenly become extremely modern and agile, whereas the people are highly comfortable, very, very slow-paced company. Okay, that no matter how strong or aggressively the management forces the strategy, the structure, and the systems, the shared values and the style, the staff and the skills will decide to resist it because the management doesn't run the company. They are not the boots on the floor. Okay, the boots on the floor are the people. So the systems, the structures, and the strategy is decided by the management. Definitely, it's top down, definitely. But how the change will go through, how it will actually materialize is all dependent on the software element. If they do not work in harmony, your framework is flawed and your implementation will go into the drain. So the 7S elements in your company, which we are really broadly calling the elements here, but there will be separate specific names, specific behaviors that you will need to list under this. So how do you use it in an implementation journey? You write down the systems. For example, under systems, you will write down what kind of systems right now you are following. In case it's an analog system, you are going to write down हम अभी एक्सेल शीट्स यूज करते हैं हम अभी नॉर्मल पंच इन पंच आउट यूज करते हैं अटेंडेंस के लिए these are what you will write down under systems. Under structures, you will write your existing structures that you follow. Then the strategy will write down the current strategy, what you want. You want to track attendance, you want to make sure people are completing the trainings, they're not leaving it in the middle. All of that will go into the top structure. And at the bottom, you will say what skills people have. What is my make or break skill in my company that we currently have. Remember, this is the framework, okay? This is not your journey, this is not your plan, this is not your calendar. This is more of your inventory. तो हर टॉपिक के अंदर आपके पास एग्जिस्टिंग क्या है वो आप लिखेंगे Doesn't mean that it will have to have a bearing on your transformation journey, but this is your input in your transformation journey. Okay. For example, style. Style I can talk largely about. Hands-off style of management, hands-on type of management. Kitne log style of learning style of people. It can be active learning, passive learning, visual learning, auditory learning, kinesthetic learning. All of that, depending upon the digital transformation journey, these elements list will be different. So you decide what kind of a transformation journey you are going on and what will be your inputs from the framework. Again, this is not a part of your transformation journey. It is your input to your transformation journey to know कि ये तो मैंने set कर लिया है, ये लोग इसको disrupt कर देंगे. How do I manage this? So this is largely an input or a indicator for how your change management will happen. This is a short recap. We spoke about digitization, digitalization, digital transformation. We gave you an example. We spoke about the 6 pillars. We spoke about the framework. Now we are going into the pathway, the strategy. This I spoke about in detail. I'm not going to go into in huge detail because I will bore the death out of you. We already spoke about the steps that we required to be implementing based on those 6 transformational pillars. Stage 1, alignment between learning and development, training and development, goals and outcomes. हमारा क्या goal है और क्या outcome है? Remember, I will continue referring to training and development here, but this can be implemented in any business operations, financial operations, legal operations, compliance operations, anywhere you want to put it, you can put it. Okay, the process stays the same. We are saying T&D here because it's a learning and development, training and development, digital transformation process. So first of all, your job would be to align the goals and outcomes. आप अपने लाला लैंड में बैठे हो, आपको लग रहा है कि मुझे तो ये आउटकम चाहिए, मैनेजमेंट को चाहिए क्या आउटकम? So who decides the alignment? You do. You proactively reach out and make sure that everybody is aligned to the outcomes that I'm looking for. Then evaluate and earn endorsement. And this is when I'm talking about your champions. कौन से लोग मुझे support करेंगे? When I say evaluate, it means that when you talk to people, you know who is a supporter, who is going to be sitting on the on the middle, neither this side or that side. They are neither the yaysayer nor the yaysayers. So when I say naysayers, they're typically the people who always say no. Yaysayers are the ones who always say yes. And people who are on the bench or on the middle, those are the people like dekhte hain. So you need to know who your champions are. Who are the people who are going to completely detract you or try to shut you down? So you evaluate them, you get to know who these people are, and you earn your endorsement, your champions. Okay. The next one will be invest in creating the culture. And how do you do that? You start talking, you start talking, you start talking, you start your communication, you start your flyers, you start your emails, you start your huddles. You begin focusing on the change that is about to happen, talking about it, socializing. And हम इसको बोलते हैं socialize करना, change को socialize करो, reactions देखो लोगों को. Then you work on, while you're doing all of this, बैकग्राउंड में ये भी तैयारी करो कि यू हैव टू बी अजाइल फॉर चेंजेस. मानो आपने सबका एंडोर्समेंट ले लिया, आपको लगा सब लोग बहुत सपोर्ट करेंगे, एवरीबडी हेट्स इट, मगर करना तो है चेंज बिकॉज यू हैव योर गोल, यू हैव योर आउटकम. सो हाउ डू यू बी अजाइल to make the change, go back to the drawing board, make a different change and come back and socialize that. और इसके आपको multiple iterations करने पड़ेंगे if you want your outcome to really happen. Otherwise, you will be a bull, you will push it through, people may not receive it, हो तो जाएगा मगर outcome फिर भी नहीं होगा successful. And this is what I just spoke about, iterative approach for DT blueprint. When I say DT, that word we will use because it's too much of a text, digital transformation blueprint. So your blueprint, like I said, iterative approach. आगे पीछे, आगे पीछे, आगे पीछे, till the time you are like 200% sure that अब मैं तैयार हूं to make sure we will have to invest in this software or we will have to invest in, we will have to invest in a certain immersive solution. अगर आप blindly, without back and forth, go ahead and you implement a software which nobody likes, nobody wants, nobody uses, your goals will definitely not happen. They will not get delivered. So that is based on this whole process, you will decide how much money and what investment is required for your goals to get implemented. Remember, this is just not a goal that you will achieve. There is a investment of a digital transformation, that means there will be softwares, there will be other things that will be required, that will require a budget. So आपको एक certain budget मिला है, उस budget के ऊपर आपको decide करना है based on the people's reaction, the employees, your target population, TG जिसे हम बोलते हैं, your target group, उसके reaction पे depend करेगा how we go ahead and implement our blueprint and how much money etc will be done. हो सकता है आपने 1 करोड़ का बजट लिया हो, आपके पास अभी आप क्लियरली दिख रहा है कि we do not need to invest all of it over in 1 year. We can do it over phases. We might need to invest only 2 lakhs in the first year. And we can work with a smaller software. We can work with a basic license, not a corporate license or a pro license. All these calls will have to be taken if we follow these 6 steps efficiently. Okay. And then we talk about the journey. Stages kya honge is journey mein? There will be business as usual. There will be present and active. जो काम चल रहा है वैसे ही चलेगा. And धीरे धीरे हम चेंज को स्नीक इन करेंगे. उसके बाद आप उसको फॉर्मलाइज करेंगे. उसके बाद आप स्ट्रेटेजाइज करेंगे कि कैसे पुराना सिस्टम को पूरा उड़ा के खत्म कर देंगे. देन आप पुराने और नए सिस्टम को कन्वर्ज करके उसको इवेंचुअली एलिमिनेट करेंगे एंड देन यू अडॉप्ट द न्यू सिस्टम. These are the 6 phases. So in the first stage, what happens? Business as usual. Start by leveraging existing technologies to introduce digitization धीरे धीरे. So जैसे चल रहा था उसके साथ अब छोटा सा digitalization डालिए. And when I say, remember, digitalization is using some of the processes to improve the experience. आप दिखाइए लोगों को what benefits can come if you can do large scale transformation. But then you are not disrupting anything. Business as usual. The next stage will be enhance the trainings to enable digital literacy in people. So अब आप एक नया सॉफ्टवेयर इंप्लीमेंट करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, but you haven't trained people well enough to use the software. ट्रेनिंग तो सॉफ्टवेयर के अंदर जाके होगा ना, मगर सॉफ्टवेयर को यूज करने की भी ट्यूटोरियल देना पड़ेगा ना लोगों को. If you do not prepare them well, and if they have team members further, they will mess it up. They don't know how to use it. They only know how to access the training content, but they do not know how to use the software end to end. So they will not educate people. They will confuse everybody, and everybody said एकदम बेकार है, बहुत difficult है, कुछ नहीं समझ आ रहा, पता नहीं क्या confusion है. That is what the problem is. So how do you invest in digital literacy? And it will be funny in many situations where there are older people, older generation still functional in the company who resist any kind of technology change. उनको डिजिटल लिटरेसी के अलग सेशंस देने पड़ेंगे. सो इन चैप्टर 2 और चैप्टर 2 आई थिंक, या in chapter 2 I think we will cover about generational workforce and what kind of change and communication and plans you have to design for them. Do you have to handle them separately? Do you have to handle them in a matrixed manner, or do you have to put special emphasis in making sure that they adapt and they are mentored by younger folks to be able to access and adjust with this change? Third stage is formalizing it. So you improve the relevance of the change that you're bringing in by experiment. So you eliminate irrelevant practices. Mailroom. How many of you have experienced mailroom? आप लोगों में से बहुत young जो लोग होंगे उन्होंने mailroom देखा भी नहीं होगा. हमारे time पे there used to be a beautiful concept, something called a mailroom. In that mailroom, there would be a lovely mail guy who will collect all your mail, who would actually take a trolley and go around the office and deliver all the letters, etc., etc. Then the next stage of innovation came that there will be an email from the mailbox, mailroom that will go to everybody, collect your mail by so and so date. So and so people have received mails. We will go and collect it, put a signature there. There'll be one person who will be managing the mails. It can be couriers, it can be material deliveries, etc., etc. And then it was eventually shown what kind of a benefit it created by not having this one guy to rally around the entire office delivering different mails to different people, and misplacement, manual errors, etc., etc. So that was highlighted when this digital system came in place. And once that came in place, eventually people moved to complete digital pickup boxes. So there was this big almirah of electronic boxes that was established. People would go, key in their code, take out their parcel, go. मेलरूम वाले का क्या हुआ? जयराम जी की. उसको हमने क्या किया? अपस्किल करके उसको हमने दूसरे क्लरिकल काम में लगाया. But the idea is that before you go, that you have to do these experiments to see, one, the appetite of change, second, the reactions of change, and third, how quickly we can implement it, how easily it can be slid into people's lives. Some changes are very easy. For example, changing a water cooler, changing the coffee machine. These can be very small changes to bring in more efficiencies. But then larger efficiencies that have been brought into, especially when it comes to learning or which touches people's lives or people's employments, that requires more of experimenting and eliminating the irrelevant practices that makes that implementation more difficult. Okay, that's your formalized stage. Then we are talking about strategy. अभी हमें inputs मिल गए, लोग कैसे react कर रहे हैं, response कर रहे हैं, अब अपनी strategy बनाएंगे. So the blueprint wala stage is going to converge with your strategic stage. Your blueprint finalization as to this is how my blueprint will look like. These are the tentative dates. इस date के आसपास I should be able to reach every milestone. You can be now finalizing it, sharing it with your team. That's why we are saying fellow trainers and team members. And these team members typically whom we are implementing this change for will be your pilot population, your teaching, your target group. In the converse stage, we create a dedicated team. तुम ये करोगे, तुम ये करोगे, तुम ये करोगे. You will create that roadmap, breakup of elements, things to do, and you will assign those tasks to people. And then you go into the stage of establishing the digital ecosystem as the new norm, which means now we are in maintenance mode. The change has been implemented. We have done our pilot. We now are ready for a larger implementation. And now this team makes sure that we are now creating the digital ecosystem. So that is your transformation journey. You can be in one of these stages for a longer period of time. You can be in one of these stages for just a matter of one day. It can be as small as that. But then we will all have to go through this 6 stages to be able to successfully implement a digital transformation in any company. Now in this, we talked about the team getting created. What are the roles? Very important, okay? First one is the Chief Information Officer. The one, and remember again, not all small companies will have all these roles. Not all large companies will only have this role. This is only an indicative list of what should be a part of the digital transformation team. कुछ लोग multiple roles play करेंगे. Some people might be the chief information officer, also implementation officer, एक बंदा होगा. But then there might be also multiple people for smaller roles. This is an indicative list of what are the essential roles that must be there in a digital transformation team. Chief Information Officer, Digital Transformation Specialist. So the Chief Information Officer is an expert. उसको पता है कि transformation कैसे implement करना होता है. What kind of a transformation we are trying to implement, especially हमारे यहाँ पे, for an example, we are talking about learning and development transformation. The person will be an expert, should have done multiple implementations, will know what the pitfalls are, what the risk strategies are. So this is the top guy. The transformation specialist is somebody who is execution driven, who has not only has the knowledge, but also has physically done implementation, multiple learning management systems, knows how one management system is different from the other and how he can do the implementation. To him, everybody else reports. Who are these people? The adoption manager, जो end customer से बात करेगा. End customer in this situation will be your employee. It can be supervisors, it can be ground level workers. These are the people who will come and say, यार ये काम नहीं कर रहा, ये नहीं चल रहा. So this digital adoption manager will be gathering all these reactions, feedbacks, etc., and working with whom? The product managers. These product managers are going to go and make those changes based on this feedback. And all these cascades into the top guy. Who is the top guy? The Chief Information Officer. Many people call them the Chief Learning Officer, CLO bolte hain, Learning Director bolte hain. These are the people who, and remember, doesn't have to be a L&D person, can be a highly technical person. This is a separate team. A digital transformation team doesn't necessarily has to be a trainer. It can be people who are highly technical but have a good idea about the learning and development domain. They are not necessarily trainers. But generally, the digital adoption manager has to come from a training background, because then they can make sense of the feedback. Otherwise, a technical person is not able to make sense of the feedback. And the product managers definitely have to have a learning and development background. Otherwise, their implementation of whatever fixes they are doing are going to fall short. Okay. So these are the essential roles. So now, why should an organization care about digital transformation? Very simple. First of all, it increases productivity. It reduces cost. Second, it improves the employee experience. And third, it creates a competitive workforce. Why is it important? Having a competitive workforce ensures that you are always ahead of everybody else in the industry. Now, it depends how many steps you want to be ahead. You want to be step 1 ahead, or you want to be step 10 ahead, or you want to be hundreds and millions of miles ahead of others. Now, Google is 100 and million miles away of others, because when they're implementing a certain learning strategy, वो आके मुझे बोलेंगे, this is 99% success, Tina, shame on you. Every other organization will celebrate it, because they are still worried about why there is a 1% failure. Because that is what keeps them a notch ahead of everybody else. Hardly people can catch up to the learning and development ecosystem Google has. And that is why it is what it is today. It pretty much dominates how the search engines work. It dominates the learning space. For those who are learning champions, they would know what kind of learning and development Google provides and how simple the interface is. And to make things simple is complicated beyond imagination. Making things simpler is much more difficult than making things complex. Making things complex is an easy job. So that is what your content for today was. I wanted to now stop the screen share and get some reactions. This is your module 1. You've done a good job. You've covered through all. I have done a good job, because I don't know whether you guys understood any of it. Merely to bada easy hai. I breezed through the content. That's it. But you will get all this content. Okay, guys? Don't worry. You will get all of this content. I try to keep it conversational and easy for all of you to connect to and not get overwhelmed. Kafi sare charts hain, kafi sare ecosystems hain. Don't get confused with this, because next chapters will further deep dive into each of these stages, etc. etc. So we'll keep referring back to these models. We'll keep referring back to the 6 pillars. We'll keep referring back to the stages of your digital journey, so that you can connect कि हम अभी जो पढ़ रहे हैं वो इस stage में जाता है. Okay? So questions, clarifications, anything that you would like to talk. I think we have 10 minutes. Approximately 10 minutes. Yes, Shiva.
Yes, I had one question, that considering your experience, your varied experience across various industries and working with companies, what has been the most difficult stage for your in your in your experience in your work life, like in those 6 phases that we have gone through, or the 6 parts that we have gone through? What has been the most difficult one?
See, gathering experiences from people, etc., has never been difficult. People are very, very willing to talk their heart out. Sometimes they talk too much, more than what they should. They can also fabricate experiences. So that's not the difficult part, the conversational part. To be able to transform that into something that is appetizing enough for people to give me the rokda has
Right.
been the most difficult conversation.
Yes.
Implementation को भी दिक्कत नहीं, वो तो मेहनत कर लेंगे. We will be agile, we will do the change management, the teams will work for 48 hours in a 24-hour day. Everybody will do it.
Selling of the
Most
idea.
difficult, the selling of the idea, identifying your champions.
Mhm.
Sustaining the effort is also not difficult, because people are willing to be agile in that. What catches you in the catch-22 game is, आप बोल रहे हो proof क्या है? Especially when you're doing a very new idea, जिसके लिए ज़्यादा market में examples नहीं. Selling that idea, getting the leadership on your side, and allowing them to loosen their wallet is the most difficult conversation. It's a cliche. It's pretty much the same challenge in every
Yes,
industry.
yes,
Selling
yes,
an
yes,
idea.
that's true.
It's cliche.
That is, yes. Thank you. Thank you
That
so
is
much.
what. Any other question? It can be from the course content, can be anything else. And if not, I can give you guys some time back. I understand it's a Sunday. You might want to cut back to families. If there are no questions, we can wrap it up. As promised, I will send it over, this document, as a PDF to all of you. I will send it to Gurvinder ji. He will share it with everybody. And what else? Next session, let me see. Do I have any additional reading material with this one? We don't. Okay. For this chapter, we don't have any additional materials. Next one onwards, I will start giving you any white papers, any articles on the internet, etc., that you can read and recollect what you've learned during the chapter. What you can do when you reach the book, receive the book, is there are some self-assessment questionnaires. छोटा वो typical fill in the blanks, match the following type का है. You can go through that. Also, the various essential roles I spoke about very briefly. But in the book, you get definitions of all the roles. As to इस role के आदमी का क्या characteristic है. Please read through it. So if you read through it, it's a lot of text. But the benefit is because you've heard the visual part of it, you've seen and you've related to the examples, it will be easy for you to absorb. So अगर आप अकेले बैठ के पढ़ते आपको 3 घंटे लगता, आपको ये सुनने के बाद अगर आप पढ़ोगे 1 घंटा, it cuts down the time for you to read through the content. And that's why I was a little skeptical that you haven't received the books yet, but then it's okay. We'll catch up. Next week तक आ जाना चाहिए आपके पास. ठीक है? And I will also speak to Govind. All right, guys. Lovely meeting all of you. We'll keep meeting every Sunday. We'll keep it tight, crisp. Think of your questions beforehand in case you have any. Class का पहला 10 से 15 minute we'll dedicate to questions from the previous session and general chit chat. After 10 minutes, we'll jump into the session and we'll wrap up the session. You are not barred from bringing questions from way more previous sessions. And let us say we are doing session number 4 or 5 and you ask a question from session 1, it's absolutely fine. First few minutes, not few minutes, 10 to 15 minutes we'll dedicate to questions every day. Unless and until we are like really, really running behind schedule, I don't think that will happen. All right, guys, thank you so much. Appreciate your patience.
Thanks for the session. I'm sorry to interrupt you here. Do you have
Go
any case study to refer to where we can go through and see and any
You will get case studies. It's too early for case studies, but chapter 3 onwards, you will start getting 6 or 7 case studies. There's Netflix case study, there's Mitsubishi case studies. Then there is 1 or 2 of the case studies where digital transformation completely bombed. So we will share all of that with you. Don't worry. You will get them in the due course. Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
All right. See you guys. Bye.
Thank
Good
you.
day to you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Take
Thank
care.
you, ma'am.
You're welcome.